Ladies and gentlemen, honestly speaking, these are very tough times for Ukraine, but especially for the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky. These are very tough times. That is to say, Russia has just made them cry. Not to mention, Russia has just made Volodymyr Zelensky whimper. Volodymyr Zelensky is crying after the speech delivered by the powerful head of Russian diplomacy, Sergei Lavrov, the Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs. After his speech, things have gone downhill for Zelensky. As if all that weren't enough, what happened today in Istanbul has further angered some Western allies, including Norway, which made an announcement to soothe, to somewhat calm Zelensky in Ukraine, but an announcement that is unlikely to work. And as if all that weren't enough, it's Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, who comes and stirs things up in Ukraine just like that. Bam, 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 bam. And in the end, Ukraine's dream is shattered. So Ukraine finds itself stuck at the Wailing Wall. What's going on? Specifically, what is this about? It's these three events, my goodness, that we are going to discuss in this video conference, ladies and gentlemen. But before we continue, for all the new people here, my legal name is Robert Théa. I am a professor at the General Benchmark University of Paris-Conakry in the Faculty of Law. I am a teacher and researcher. I am the president of the Guinean political party, called the Citizens Party in service of the Republic. I am also the CEO of my company, which is called Samta Group Sarlu. This introduction is important for the new people who have just joined us. Ladies and gentlemen, the situation is serious. Share the video conference as much as possible. Let's dive deeper. Yes. So, first of all, the speech that Russia gave today. The powerful Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sergei Lavrov, the speech he delivered. Here are the key points. There are at least 7 key points. The first key point is that he gave this speech during a meeting of the diplomatic club just a few hours before he was supposed to speak in Istanbul today, a few hours before the event was set to begin. Unfortunately, it didn't even start. He reads this. When I say today, I mean May 15th, because I am holding the video conference on May 15th, 2025. He says the events currently taking place in Istanbul are intriguing. I don't know. Intriguing, what does that mean? You can help me. Define it in the comments. To me, it means it makes you angry. According to how I understand it, it makes you uncomfortable. He says, that's the first point. Now he elaborates on this first point in the second point. He says, the West does not hide the fact that a ceasefire is necessary to prepare Kiev to continue its military operations. If this were in a movie, we'd say, Shu kin 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 ken kon. He says, the West does not hide the fact that a ceasefire is necessary to prepare Kiev to continue its military operations. What does he actually mean by that? He means that the Westerners are not sincere. The real reason they insisted on a 30-day ceasefire before starting negotiations is because they want Ukraine to have time to rearm. They want to have time to rearm and then continue the conflict. He reads, that's the Western way of thinking, because the West does not want to give in. Yeah, to admit defeat. The West doesn't want to surrender. The West wouldn't want it to be said in history that Russia had won, because every year Russia might celebrate that. And if Russia celebrates that, their hearts will go yum, 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 yum. So, the West just wants to take advantage. Otherwise, they wouldn't come to Istanbul for lasting peace. That's what Lavrov says. The third point, he says Zelensky is pathetic. He is pitiful. When he demands Vladimir Putin's presence in Istanbul, Zelensky is pitiful. What does that actually mean? It means that I myself, as foreign minister, am not going there. How is Putin, the boss of the Kremlin, supposed to get himself there? He says Zelensky is pitiful. The fourth point, he says there is plenty of evidence that Western capitals do not want peace in Ukraine, but are trying to turn Europe against Russia. This is the man speaking, Sergei Lavrov. He says there is plenty of evidence proving that in Western capitals, they do not want peace. They just want to turn Europe against Russia. He goes on. He says, the West must force Kiev to return to normal and repeal the laws that contradict the constitution of the Ukrainian country. This is what Russia wants to denazify Ukraine. He continues with the seventh point, the last point. He says, the American administration under Trump returned to normal. Politicians and diplomats must talk. Here is what he said. So, speaking of that, the proof of what Sergei Lavrov just said, we find this proof. Elsewhere, when in the meantime, Norway announces that it will transfer F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine by the end of 2025. Norway says that some planes have already been delivered to Ukraine. However, the Norwegian Minister of Defense, Tore Sandvik, emphasized that the details would not be disclosed for security reasons. He specified that the deliveries were proceeding as planned. Norway has officially announced its intention to transfer 6 F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. Imagine the fate of these 6 planes. Just 6 F-16 fighter jets. Imagine their fate. What happened to the first F-16 sent is likely to happen to the F-16s that will follow. Please share this video conference, share it, give it lots of likes, and don't forget to leave plenty of comments. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the main point of the situation. Thank you for sharing the video conference as much as possible. And I will be back with more news shortly. This was the voice of your one and only samurai. In an upcoming video conference, we will talk about how NATO, the new head of NATO, has put his foot in it regarding Ukraine. We will come back to that shortly.